Canada is going to war in Iraq, but do Canadians support the move? Daniel Leblanc will weigh in. And later, the intersection of war, technology, and video games. I'm Madeleine White. Welcome to Globe Now. Today, a motion proposed by Stephen Harper will be presented to MPs. In it, the Prime Minister is asking to send Canadian jet fighters to Iraq to conduct airstrikes against Islamic State militants. He is also suggesting the country provide military assets for a 6-month period. And even though the Liberals and the NDPs are signaling they will oppose it, this motion is expected to pass. Daniel Leblanc is one of the Globe and Mail's parliamentary reporters. He joins us now to talk about the political ramifications of this situation. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi.
So deciding to go to war was obviously not a decision that the Prime Minister took lightly. What do we know about how he came to this conclusion?
Well, it's been a long time coming. The Americans asked first off if Canada wanted to join the coalition. So it's been a while. The Canadians have already been involved for about a month now. This seems to have come naturally to the government to kind of ramp up its combat mission against IS. It's taken a bit of time for Mr. Harper to actually state what he wanted, but it's been clear for a number of weeks that a combat mission, airstrikes were up in the air. CF-18s are one of Canada's main assets, military assets, and that's one of the first things that allies ask when they want Canada to join into an international coalition like this.
So President Obama has said that this mission is likely going to take much longer than 6 months. So how realistic is this motion that's on the table right now?
Well, it's a 6 months renewable term that the government is asking. That's one of the big questions out there. A big question for the NDP as well, amongst others, is how do we know this will only last 6 months? The first mission was 30 days for these military advisors. That's been renewed for up to 6 months. When will Canada get out of this? That's something that remains to be seen. And that's one of the big questions. The government is not backing down from the possibility of eventually renewing this, prolonging the mission. That seems to be likely at this point. But at some point, Mr. Harper has used the word quagmire, something he wants to avoid. So there is also an exit strategy, though it's not clear at this point what it is.
Now, do you think mission creep is something that could affect Stephen Harper's popular vote?
Well, mission creep would entail, kind of adding new material to this, new assets, boats, people, something of which the Canadian forces don't have a lot. But this notion of a never-ending mission that, people remember the Iraq War in the U.S. So I think Mr. Harper is quite conscious that he wants to keep this fairly focused. I don't think there will be a big major call amongst Canadians to stop these airstrikes because usually they don't entail any soldiers coming back wounded or unfortunately dead. So that's something that Mr. Harper has chosen a really focused mission to this point.
So let's talk about the opposition for a second. Politically speaking, what did Thomas Mulcair and Justin Trudeau have to do to capitalize on this moment?
It's an issue of difference, showing they are different, that they would govern the country differently, that if they win the next election in October 2015, they would put an end to this mission. So that's already a clear marker for them. It's a bit harder to differentiate between the Liberal and the NDP positions. Both are opposed, both are asking more questions. So it's a bit of a struggle between the two parties to actually maybe capture in an eventual campaign the vote of Canadians who actually are opposed to this.
Now, just briefly here, Justin Trudeau specifically has been criticized for his lack of experience when it comes to foreign policy. What does he have to do to prove that he has leadership on issues of war in the Middle East?
He's actually got to get people to forget his quip last week of whipping out the CF-18s. That looked juvenile. That was not part of his prepared speech, which was actually meatier. And then, the quip is what actually got people's attention. So that's a big challenge for Mr. Trudeau, is to show that he's actually leadership material and that he has a concrete position on this, but also that it's consistent. Lots of people have said that the Liberal position has been wavering in recent weeks.
So just briefly, what are you hearing on the Hill in terms of whether politicians believe that this is going to be an issue in next year's federal election?
I do have a sense that the Conservatives will make this an issue, that everyone will make this an issue. It's sometimes, it's not domestic politics, but it is something that's a clear difference between the major parties, between the government and the opposition. So I do have a sense that this is something that will remain etched in people's minds when they go to a vote next year.
Interesting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Well, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the Prime Minister's plans to send our military to Iraq? Contact us on Twitter. Our handle is @GlobeNow. Now we turn to look at the blurred lines between real-life war and video games. A new video installation at Ryerson University examines this intersection and wonders, as technology changes, are wars becoming more disconnected from reality?
It's really blurring the lines between, reality and video games. Is what is real, what is fake. Farouki was always interested in trying to highlight those layers. Images are produced with a meaning, with a purpose, and how can you uncover that? How can you unveil the hidden process and the hidden meaning of images? When you play a game, it's supposed to be playful. You're supposed to be amused. But in this case, they're using video game technology for warfare. And in this case, it's how war becomes a spectacle and almost a game, so that soldiers can be trained. It's as if war was becoming something unreal, and then no people are involved. It's just a video game.
That's it for today's show. Remember, you can find us on Twitter. We're @GlobeNow. I'm Madeleine White. Thanks for watching.